The discovery of the two branches of the vagus nerve, and like this is huge, and it still hasn't really caught on that much out there. Like you don't really hear, or people don't understand it, or else they just want to stimulate the vagus nerve, or because as soon as it detects danger or have cues of danger in the environment, what it's going to do is it's going to pull that social engagement system offline. And the social engagement system is made up of the 5 cranial nerves that create that social engagement system, which are intimately connect your autonomic nervous system. However, they're not vibrating and full of energy anymore. They're actually very calm. Some people might even just think they're just totally relaxed. They might even look relaxed on the outside. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Vitality Shift podcast for chiropractors. This is Dr. Don Macdonald, your host. And again, I'm back. We always take these little hiatuses as we get busy with life right now in North America. So Brandy and I have taken this opportunity to golf a little bit more. I just wanted to jump on here because I hadn't been on the podcast for about 3 or 4 months. And just give a little bit update of what's going on. As many of you know, we've really taken a shift to focus on looking at all of the things through a polyvagal lens. And sometimes online, you hear like, what's all this big deal about the polyvagal theory? And again, chiropractic is not the polyvagal theory, but if we use the polyvagal theory's lens to be able to look at all the things we do, it just ties together with everything. And our initial program, our flagship program, the Vitality Shift, many of the things that we did in the Vitality Shift are very closely linked to the polyvagal theory. And I think that's why we had such an affinity to the polyvagal theory, is that the things that we were doing. And again, Brandy had an exposure to the polyvagal theory and salutogenesis and a lot of that stuff from her history as a social worker. And I think even way back in the day at her previous place, they actually set up a brain gym. Like this is like 20 some years ago, where children with autism and stuff like that were getting all this deep proprioceptive work to calm the nervous system. And so she's had such a long-term experience with this. And that's why when she ended up working in my office 20 years ago, she just, once she linked chiropractic to what she knew in the past, that's why she's become such a huge advocate and just massively understood the concepts behind chiropractic. Now, with the polyvagal theory, one of the biggest things that really got my attention about it was, the discovery of the two branches of the vagus nerve. And like, this is huge, and it still hasn't really caught on that much out there. Like you don't really hear, or people don't understand it, or else, they just want to stimulate the vagus nerve, and again, there's tons of professions trying to stimulate the vagus nerve, and body workers and therapists and yoga people and all that kind of stuff. But I just think chiropractic wise, we did a lot of work with Dr. Michael Hall, all in sympathetic dominance. And we'd had set up our whole office in that model of sympathetic dominance. And this is a big paradigm shift when, our big aha moment was, the body can be in 2 states. It can be in a sympathetic fight or flight state, or it can be in a parasympathetic rest and repair state. And again, our goal was always to be 80% parasympathetic. Like that's our target. So we always wanted to be in that calming. So we always wanted to calm the nervous system. And then just, finding out about these 2 branches of the vagus nerve, the ventral vagal branch of the vagus and the dorsal vagal, they actually have different nuclei in the brain. And so when I was reading up some of the last information on it, if they were to be able to look that closely at it, it almost could have been 2 cranial nerves, because they are, like I said, they're not even at the same nucleus in the brain. And then just understanding the hierarchy of the nervous system and how we are social. We're designed to be social mammals. And as they go back and say, we don't have big teeth or thick skin or big claws. And we always knew that before in the past. That's why, our fight or flight was so important, because if we're out in the wild with the animals that are predators, we are kind of prey. So we have to, and we have this thing called the brain, which is nice because that actually gives us ways to use tools or find knives or make arrows to protect ourselves. But the default is is that when we developed our ventral vagal branch of the vagus, that allowed us to become socially interactive and collaborative. And in order for us to be able to go into the space of others and be socially interactive and collaborative, we have to have the ability to be able to drop our defenses. And so when we're in that ventral vagal state, we are sacrificing a little bit of our protection because we are, we're connecting to people. We're dampening the part of our brain that are listening to those deep predator noises. We're actually taking away our awareness of the environment, because if you've ever been in a deep conversation or been super connected with somebody, you've probably realize like the rest of the world disappears, right? We become totally focused on that person. We become connected with them. And that's vitally important for us to collaborate and expand and share our knowledge and come up with new ideas and innovate. However, it does sacrifice our safety. So we still need to have that safety mechanism still in our nervous system. Now, if we do detect danger, which again, I think what I'll do is I'm going to do a little bit of a series on this podcast, just kind of hitting different terminology of the polyvagal theory and just bringing it back to chiropractic, and then also trying to make it relevant to our practice, because we've talked to a lot of chiropractors who've done a lot of polyvagal work and they've understood the polyvagal theory, but they have a hard time kind of making it practical in their practice. So we detect danger, right? So something happens through what's called neuroception. And neuroception is below our conscious awareness, and it's just our nervous system's surveillance system. So I always like to think of the vagus kind of like a security system in your house, where it's kind of like cameras are checking all the different areas inside and outside of our body. And it's just always on the lookout for danger, because as soon as it detects danger or have cues of danger in the environment, what it's going to do is it's going to pull that social engagement system offline. And the reason it needs to pull that social engagement system offline is so that we can like let all of our defense systems go on full blast, which is again, hearing those low frequency noises, being very aware of our environment, like getting ready to go to the next stage. So danger in our environment, the first thing that the body's going to do is it's going to go into a fight or flight response. And because that's going to be usually the first thing we're going to do, is that we see that there's danger. Our body will quickly determine below our subconscious, can we socially get out of this? Because some people can, like we can talk our way out of a dangerous situation. However, if something's happened in our past where we've basically learned that we can't really socially get out of very many things, we're going to fire on that. We're going to turn on that danger response a lot quicker. So we fire on the danger response. Now we're going to fight or flight. So now we're going to have a conflict, or we're going to run away. And then if that doesn't work, we actually go into what's called dorsal vagal, which is basically that third level of the hierarchy. And that's what we call dorsal vagal, which the body goes into more of a free state. Now, all these states are not like delineated, clear, black and white. They do have gradients to them. And not only that they're dangerous, is that we aren't allowed to mobilize, which means we are not able to move, which is the fight or flight. So what that does is it took so many people down that hole into that dorsal vagal state. Now, we don't have just a bunch of humans just like playing dead on the side of the road or just curled up in their house. Well, some are, but there's gradients of that. And that's just that totally shut down state. Now, if someone's in a sympathetic fight or flight state, their social engagement system is going to turn off. And the social engagement system is made up of the 5 cranial nerves that create that social engagement system, which are intimately connect your autonomic nervous system to your face and the muscles of your face and your hearing and your voice and your eyes. And your breathing, like all that stuff is all connected in. And again, when we're a nervous system's more of a regulated state, you'll be able to see it on someone's face. And when they're not, you won't. So it makes more sense if someone's like upset and agitated, you can see it in their face that they're not like socially appealing, but they're also fired up. right? And that's what we always thought about, that sympathetic dominance. And then I think what we said down the earlier on was that, they get into maybe adrenal fatigue because they've been firing their sympathetic so long. We thought that they burnt out. The body actually shifts back to parasympathetic and goes back into that dorsal vagal free state. Now we still have the face that's not socially appealing. However, they're not vibrating and full of energy anymore. They're actually very calm. Some people might even just think they're just totally relaxed. They might even look relaxed on the outside, but we can always tell, because if you have somebody who is relaxed, but they are not detecting danger, their social engagement system is online. And so they would be totally relaxed, but you would see all those cues of safety in their face, their breathing, their voice, their ability to hear, all those kind of things. And so this is super helpful as as a chiropractor when we're doing a first visit on someone, because we are going to be seeing, like, where are they? If they're dorsal, we actually need to get them ramped up a bit. Like, we actually need to kind of kick in some more energy because they're actually down that rabbit hole. And if they're sympathetic, then our goal is to kind of calm them down a little bit, or get that energy out in some manner. So this was very interesting to me. And then I also took this towards my adjusting, because we always check the back of the spine in chiropractic, right? They're face down. Most of our checks are all going to be down the back of the spine, because we want the structure, the nervous system posteriorly functioning properly. We want them upright, because we want them. We know the benefits of posture, good function on brain function. However, what I was finding even before I studied about the polyvagal theory was that when someone's in a flexor dominant position for a long period of time, the ventral aspect of their body is in protection. Well, and I didn't have the language, but it felt like it was just all stuck together. So if we're adjusting the spine, getting the spine more mobile, but we aren't addressing anything on the ventral aspect of the person, sometimes it made it more restrictive for them to open up. And so I'd kind of already defaulted checking the ventral aspect, whether we're talking about first rib, clavicle, rib cage, sternum, diaphragm, like visceral work, anterior femur heads, hip flexors, all that kind of stuff. But now it really made sense was that if we can open up that ventral aspect, that is basically a massive window into the autonomics. And if we can get some cues of safety into that autonomic nervous system, what we can do is quickly help the body become more regulated, or the nervous system become more regulated. And then that is also going to help the posterior of the spine as well, because if the nervous system is in a more of a regulated state, it's going to be a lot easier for us to be in an upright position. And so that's basically why Brandy said, you need to teach this. And of course I didn't want to teach it, because it's like, I'm like, I don't want to teach it, but she really encouraged me to do it. And so since then, we ended up calling it the Macdonald Safety Corridor Protocol. And we did the first seminar in our office last November. And then we quickly found out that it's definitely not going to be able to be taught in one day. And so we've now broken it into 2 levels, level 1 and level 2. And then we might even get into a level 3 as far as extremities, and then doing like some case studies and stuff like that. So it's actually been very interesting. And a buddy of mine, Dr. Martin Harvey from Australia, he told me that the nicest thing about having associates is that if you have to teach someone else what you do innately, it really forces you to become a lot more present and a lot more deliberate on what you're doing, because there's one thing to be able to do it really well, but then there's another thing to be able to do it really well and then teach other people how to do it really well, which is challenging. And for all of our Canadian friends, so that's like the Wayne Gretzky, where Wayne Gretzky just like played hockey and just knew where everything, knew where every way was going to be, knew where the puck was going to go, just did it innately. However, when he became a coach, he was never quite as effective as a coach. And then there's been other people who maybe don't do it as amazingly, but they are an amazing coach. So it's kind of, it's one of those challenges to try to be amazing adjuster and then be an amazing teacher so that people can actually understand it. So it's practical and pragmatic. So I'm still in the learning process for this, but it's been a really fun journey. Hope you guys are all doing awesome. It's good to be back. And I hope to see you guys sometime in the fall. And until next time,